on September 2nd, 2005. Now, if you grew up in this area, in the Gulf coastal region, I probably shouldn't have to remind you what happened 4 days before that on August 29th, 2005. Yeah, Michael Jackson's 57th birthday? You were there? I know, we missed that because we were busy evacuating from a fucking storm. Hurricane Katrina makes landfall. Now, I don't really remember that morning because I woke up in the afternoon. I woke up because my phone had been ringing nonstop. At that point, I had 8 missed calls from my dad. Now, my dad is a small business owner. All my life, I've only ever heard him answer the phone one way and one way only, like this. This is Tim, every time, everywhere. Obviously in the office, but also at home. This is Tim. At a relative's house, the phone's ringing. He's like, I'll get it. This is Tim. We gotta walk past a payphone ringing. He'd be like, excuse me, this is Tim. His name was Tim. I mean, it's not a joke. It's not like his name's Gary and it's just a prank he's been playing for 30 years on strangers. Like, this is Tim. They think I'm Tim. Yeah, this is still Tim. What a bunch of doofuses. And he never looked at caller ID. It's something I always noticed. When he got a cell phone, he would just answer. And knowing my dad, he had a whole system worked out as to why he would never look at caller ID. Like, listen, every time you look at caller ID, that's 3 seconds, wasted. Add that up over a full day, that's a whole minute, gone. Now add that up over a year, that's 8 hours, gone. That's a whole day wasted checking caller ID. I ain't got a whole day to waste checking caller ID, son. I got a business to run. Excuse me, this is Tim. So he calls again, and I would often answer and go, this is Sean. But I didn't even get to that point. The moment I answered the phone, he goes, where the fuck are you? He was with my 2 youngest siblings heading to my other sister's house in Baton Rouge, right? Which was strange to me because my dad, we never evacuated. My dad had been through every single hurricane that hit this area since 1952. The Murderers Row, all of them. Camille, Betsy, Andrew, he'd been through, and like we were oftentimes there, like we never evacuated, man, ever, right? I mean, hurricanes can be fun. It's a category 3 or less, you know, you get all your snacks in there, all your, you know, if you're an adult, you get some booze. If you're a child around here, you get some booze as well, you know? The power goes out, the rain's coming down, the wind, the lightning, you go out in the middle of it with your sister, pretend like you're in a Creed video. It's a great time. We never left, but something about Katrina terrified him. He was out. He says to me, get the fuck up now, pack up anything you care about, get to the hospital, get your mom, get to errands. My mom was an RN, right? She was at work. So how did I respond? I went back to sleep. I got to the hospital an hour later than I was supposed to, and at that point, they were begging her to stay. They had let too many people go already. They were begging my mom to stay. She had every right to leave. The supervisor's there with tears in his eyes, and she said yes. She chose to stay, to do her fucking job. Get the fuck out of here, to me. Go now. You gotta go. I didn't even try. I was like, okay. By the time I got to Baton Rouge, right, my dad was asleep when I walked in, exhausted from getting everybody out of there. I woke him up and expected him to bite my head off and spit it back down my neck. Clearly, my mom had called him and told him that I was an hour late and she couldn't leave because of me, but she didn't. She was not a snitch. And he hadn't heard from her since before I had, since way earlier that day. So I lied to him. I lied and said they wouldn't let her go. I lied and said, I tried to get her out of there. And they wouldn't let her go, the bastards. And my dad did what my dad do. My dad did what my dad do. You know? That alligator tongue coming out of me. My dad did what my dad does. My dad put his best foot forward. That's something he taught me from the get-go. Always put your best foot forward. You have no clue what everybody else in that situation is going through. You got to be better than even you are. And he did that in that moment. His response was, don't worry about your mama, boy. She's meaner than any damn hurricane. Plus, I could just go live with my other wife. Give a shit. He was being strong in case the rest of us were about to be weak, right? Storm hits. Day or two goes by every day. She'll call. And you remember the media back then, they weren't exactly checking their facts, all right? Like, the prisoners of Orleans Parish Prison have escaped and gotten custody of a nuclear warhead. Like, custody of a nuclear warhead? The fuck? Is anybody fact-checking or grammar-checking these assholes? They were just putting everything out there. The city's overrun by mer people. It's fucking insane. There's a kraken. That's why people, those of us from this area we're not very shocked at what the media's become. Because we're like, the media is full of shit all the time? No, duh. Gotcha. The national media, I mean. But like, every day was just going by. She'll call, not a goddamn word. And I remember it was like 2 in the morning. I'm stepping outside to have a cigarette. My dad's just wide awake staring at the TV. And I, just to make conversation, go, what you watching? And his response was, she'll call. Now that moment, I started thinking about my mom. And I hadn't thought about her in days at that point, right? And the first thing I remember, the first thing I think about was the time she punched me in the jaw. I know, that opens up an entire new conversation. Like, should you hit your kids? All depends on your definition of kid. I was 21 when it happened. Her and I were in an argument that day. And we were always in an argument. My mom and I argued non-fucking stop. But on that day, I went too far. I said things that couldn't be taken back, and she made a mom threat. Mom threats are obvious. Boy, do not raise your voice at me again. That's when you're supposed to back down, walk away, get about a couch and a half's distance between you, and then you go, bitch. And if she hears you, you got a couch and a half head start. Moms ain't that fast. Or so I thought. I went the other way because I was a little fucking monster back then. I was taller than my mom too, so I got up on top of her, looking down on her like, why? What the fuck you gonna do? I'll raise my voice whenever the fuck I please. Hit me, bitch. It was so fast. Lightning would have blushed and thunder would have fainted at the speed of this punch. And I saw it all too late. Her feet were planted. She was in an L stance. And her knees got springy. And the moment the word bitch left my mouth for its voyage across my sister's birthday party, she threw that punch from the hips that birthed me. What? With the left. That's what threw me off the most. The left. All my life I'd known my mom to be right-handed. I'd spent 15 plus years deflecting mom rights, but she adapted and now came at me with this southpaw bullshit. With this ambidextrous quality that I did not inherit. Right across the jaw, right? And I'll never forget, I went demonic right away. My thought process, like, I'm about to fuck this lady up. I don't give a shit, I'm about to beat her ass. I'm about to cause her more pain than I did during childbirth, which until now was physically the most painful shit one could experience. It's also emotionally and mentally the most painful thing one can experience. I mean, millions of women suffer from postpartum. That's kind of fucked up. Another million women die every year just in the act of giving birth, even in first world countries, yet they do it. Year in and year out, they take the risk, knowing it's a risk, but they do it because when you think about it, it is a miracle. And she fucking did that for me. I never even asked what her dreams were. Fuck. I wonder what other sacrifices she's made that I'm not even aware of. And then I cried. And she made me a grilled cheese. is good parenting. Negotiations had broken down. She took a leap of faith in me, her creation. She believed in me enough to punch me in the fucking jaw, knowing that could either turn me into a scumbag or a decent human being. And here I am, a stand-up comedian. But that's today. On September 2nd, 2005, I was just some dumb shit on my sister's front porch, halfway through An American Spirit. So I'd been out there for like half an hour at least. And my dad's phone had been ringing for at least a drag. And he hadn't answered it yet. So I turned and I looked through the window and I could see him in there. I could see him in there breathing heavier and heavier, bracing himself for this call. I could see that when he answered it, it took everything for him to do that. I could see he didn't even get to identify himself as he always did. All I had to do was get there on time and she could have came with me. All I had to do was get there on time. But I was a fucking piece of shit. At that moment, I stopped believing in a God and started wishing there were gods. Old school style fucking gods that would take me as a sacrifice and bring her back if need be. All I had to do was not be this. The world doesn't fucking need this. The world doesn't need another fat, bearded loudmouth with some sob stories. All I had to do was be a son for once. And the world wouldn't be punishing them because of me. Fuck me. And then he answered and crumbled. And if you've never heard a grown man crumble, it sounds a lot like this. Oh, baby. Oh, baby, I'm so glad you called. I'm so glad you called, baby. It was her. His other wife. I'm just fucking with you. I had to do it. Listen, I had to bring you there with me then so you could be here with me now. It was her, my mother. She lived. And right then and there, I developed an OCD tic that I carry with me forever, and it is this. I have to let go so that life can move on. No matter what it is, let go and move on. It's the only way to keep living. Just like my father in that moment had to let go of that phone call. She was on a satellite phone, only had 3 minutes, had to share it with the entire fucking hospital, okay? Just like he then let go of a reservoir of emotion. His soulmate was still alive. Just like he then let go of the loudest, most emotional raspberry rim shot I have ever heard. I mean, it was perfect. A perfect fart. Right? A full octave. Like, I think it was in the key of G sharp. I didn't know a fart could tell a story. If a stranger had heard that fart, they'd be like, well, that's quite the saga. I'm glad she lived. And just like then and there from that front porch, I let go of a, oh! Let go. Now, this is something I try to remember, but she reminds me of as much as she possibly can. On October 31st, 2017, right? And that day in New York, in Manhattan, on the west side, there was a terrorist attack. A guy got a van and ran 8 people over, killed them, right? And then it ended. It was bad and it ended. And then for the next day, I was receiving phone calls, texts, emails, direct messages. Any way you could reach out to someone, people were reaching out to me to make sure I was okay. Everyone, friends I hadn't spoken to in a decade, family members I'd written off after the last Bush administration. Everyone. Family members I liked. My immediate family. Everyone was reaching out to me to make sure I was good. Everyone except my mom. Radio silence from this woman. And I just couldn't let it go. I was just in my head about it, like, who the fuck does she think she is? I'm her firstborn son. What the fuck is wrong with her? Oh, is this how she wants to show me she doesn't love me anymore? She thinks she can get away with that shit? This is crazy. And I couldn't let it go. And finally, nights later, I'm at a bar, shit-faced, out of my mind, hammered, and I start sending her a string of very passive-aggressive, cunty texts. It's the only way I can describe them. Like, hi, Mom. My name is Sean, in case you don't have this number saved. It's spelled S-E-A-N. It's me, your firstborn son, pride of the herd. Your words, not mine. And I was just reaching out to let you know that I am fine. And within a minute, she responded, yeah, Sean, I assumed you were fine, because it all happened on a bike path. And then, love ya, got a grilled cheese waiting.